Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Romero versus Valenzuela fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Romero is 30-0-2 with 7 KOs, and Valenzuela is 17-0-3 with 4 KOs. This fight is for the WBA World Super Bantamweight title. Romero's last fight was a draw versus Cruz, and Valenzuela's last fight was a win via majority decision versus Hernandez. This is in Romero's home country of Argentina. Valenzuela's losses have come versus Mercado in 2023, Lefebvre in 2021, and Saavedra in 2019. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I say, WBA title on the line. Of course, it's Romero's. She's maybe not fortunate to still have that belt, but it's interesting how she still has that belt. Obviously, she's coming off back-to-back draws now against, top quality fighters, but at the same time, performances in which, we'd like to see rematches of, and so we haven't seen a rematch of either of them for this fight. Instead, we have a Valenzuela fight, in which I think is going to be an excellent fight, but it's just interesting how fighters can get fights ahead and everything like that, and I don't know, talks break down or whatever, but we just can't seem to get rematches because, both fighters, Romero and Cruz, were very keen to get the rematch going, and they both wanted to unify and everything like that, and that was right after their fight, but we just haven't ended up seeing it happen. I don't know if there was something to do with injuries or what, but, nonetheless, it seems like Romero wants to keep fighting, and Valenzuela is a very good test, I think. I think she's coming off an excellent performance realistically against Hernandez, where she showed a lot of something different to what you're kind of used to seeing with Valenzuela. As I'll get into it a bit more in a moment, but obviously Hernandez wasn't really a high-level operator or anything like that, and it was kind of a get-back fight after the Mercado loss, but it was a good performance, a very good performance in my opinion, and typically she had a loss and then had a couple fights to then get back to a top level again, but that's what she did after the Lefebvre fight before the Mercado one. But to be honest, after that fight, I think why not see her in a world title fight? And I think this is definitely going to make for an interesting fight. I think Romero's definitely going to be keen to be able to actually get a win. She's going to be desperate to get it, and in her home country of Argentina, when she is the favourite and everything like that, when there isn't perhaps as much pressure with it being on telly or anything like that, she is of course going to want to, like I say, really put on a show and really deliver, and this is going to be an interesting fight to do. So it's definitely a fight in which she can't overlook and think, she's got 2 rematches guaranteed. If she wins, just there waiting, she can't overlook that and just think that. She has to be fully focused on Valenzuela as a fighter, in which I hope she is. To speak about them both as fighters, Romero, she lets her hands go. She punches pretty much everywhere a lot of the time. In that last fight, to be honest, it was one of them fights in which with Cruz, Cruz isn't the most technical, and you're never going to see a great boxing display from Cruz, but you're going to see a high output, and you're going to have to see fighters be able to deal with that and manage that and see if they can weather the storm, or, I don't know, put their own storm in or something like that. And it seems like Romero was able to hold her own against her, and like I say, did try punching everywhere, and where Cruz perhaps is a little bit more just one-dimensional with the punch variation she throws and the areas in which she throws, Romero was, like I say, punching in a bit more different spots, was going to the body relatively well, and was aiming to mix shots up and everything like that, and she has typically got good body work. Obviously it's not always the most accurate, but in general it was solid offense from Romero in that fight. She wants to centre the ring. She's got solid feints when she does use them. She's got fast hands and she's quite explosive. I think that could definitely play a factor in this fight, because Valenzuela, she will try jumping at times, but in general I don't think she's anywhere near as explosive, and I think you can see shots from Valenzuela coming a bit more than you can of Romero's, and so that youthfulness style, I suppose, more from Romero. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. She can fight at mid or in close range. She's got solid power. I mean, a decent knockout ratio. Obviously, they were against lower opposition, but in general, she does seem to hit with good amounts of power, and typically seems to land quite big on every single kind of opponent that she goes in with. And she's got solid counters. She's got alright timing, and I wouldn't say it's anything too crazy, the timing, but she's there to try counter, and she'll aim to throw counters, I think a bit more than Valenzuela, because Valenzuela's a come forward type fighter, but she isn't really someone who's going to throw much on the back foot, or even going to really try counters too much. Romero fights at a high tempo as well, so I believe every fight of hers is going to be entertaining, and I believe we'll probably see another high tempo performance from Romero. And I think she deals with pressure relatively well. I think there was a question marks around her in this Cruz fight, how she's going to be able to handle the pressure, and obviously she didn't get the win and she didn't look dominant in any sort of way, but she seemed to be able to deal with the pressure well, and it didn't look like it flustered her too much, in which, like I say, often Cruz manages to do with the fighters that she's in with. Negatives about Romero: I think she can get drawn into a fight. Valenzuela could definitely do that in this fight, and that would play possibly into more Valenzuela's favour, and perhaps is the reason why she's got back-to-back draws. Romero, she's goes back in a straight line a lot of the time. I think she leans in quite a lot, and sometimes if she can come in a bit wild and then just lean in, and then she's there to get hit because she is just leaning in, waiting. She has quite an open guard. She's not really the most physical. She'll lean in, but she's not really the most physically strong. I think Valenzuela could definitely impose herself physically a bit more than that of Romero could. She has her head on the line, Romero. I think fully committing to her shots. When she does, it can be a bit wild and reckless at times, but sometimes it will land nice. But other times she doesn't always fully commit to the shots, and then it's just not really hitting with as much as perhaps she'd want. I don't think her footwork's excellent, and I think sometimes she can struggle finding range with her work, in which is a similar problem in which I think Valenzuela has, as well, as both being on the smaller side of fighters, and so perhaps that could be interesting to see who's the one that's able to get off to clean shots, and if this fight does end up fighting at a mid-range at any point, who's going to be able to find the success in the exchanges. To speak about Valenzuela as a fighter, though, she has a high guard. It's a relatively conventional high guard where she can just kind of come forward with that high guard a bit and then perhaps walk onto shots with that. She lets her hands go. She's willing to fight and match a higher tempo, maybe not a Cruz tempo, but a relatively higher tempo. She puts on the pressure. She's a front foot type fighter with good bodywork. I was impressed with some of the bodywork in which she does throw. She can fight at a mid or in close range. Something which I was very impressed with that last performance against Hernandez was she can pick her shots, and there was times in which she was kind of doing something which I've never seen from her, where she was like picking a shot and then jumping out of the way and then not getting caught with the counter and then going back in and pick a shot again, and she was doing that a few times. And obviously, like I say, Hernandez isn't really a high level type fighter, but when you are in with these type of fighters, it's nice to be able to see fighters trying something different and experimenting with their work and seeing what works. And sometimes certain fighters are reluctant to do so because they think they can lose and things like that. But if you don't really have too much to lose and you're willing to try that and you've practiced it and you know it and you drilled it, why not try things like that? And she was picking her shots and then, like I say, moving out the way very nicely in that last fight. And yeah, like I say, it was something a bit different from her. But she was also mixing in the fact that she can impose herself physically into that last fight as well. So in general, like I say, I think this was a good performance from her last time out. She got a good strong overhand. She landed that a few times against Hernandez. She's relatively accurate in her work. More recent, so in that last performance, she was quite accurate. Sometimes she can be a bit wild and a bit reckless, but last time out, I believe she was accurate, and she has that aggressive nature in her as well, possibly a bit more so than Romero does have. Negatives about her: I think her footwork isn't really excellent. I think she can move in and out and pick her shots now, as she's shown, but when she's on the offense and she is trying to let combinations go and she is trying to impose herself physically, her footwork really isn't that impressive, and it does look like a bit off balance and the legs quite close together a lot of the time, and yeah, it doesn't look amazing. Like I say, she can jump into shots. Leaving her straight shots out can sometimes be a problem. She can smother on the inside. The head can be on the line. Sometimes it's not. The head movement isn't actually that bad from Valenzuela. I think later on in the fight she tires and then the head can be on the line and she can kind of just walk forwards a bit. But sometimes earlier on, the head is moving and the head work isn't always that bad. And she even showed that in the Mercado fight, to be honest. She's not really overly that fast. I think she could struggle getting past the jab, in which I think Mercado showed. And that's what I'm saying, getting in range and finding the range is, I think, a little bit of a, maybe not problem, but a bit of a thing in which both fighters have, which they're going to have to work out. She can walk onto shots. I think her timing with her counters aren't really anything too crazy, like I say. She doesn't always throw counters, and when she does, I don't think really the timing is anything too impressive. And like I say, she can tire, probably more so than that of Romero. Romero is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Valenzuela will win via, I'm going to say majority decision. I know it's a very specific thing to say, majority decision, split decision. I think it's going to be a close fight. I believe every fight in which Romero is in is a close fight. I mean, she's kind of proven that with her last two performances, and I think this is going to be the exact same as well. I believe the last few fights I predicted Romero to lose, or at least especially that last one I did, and I believe she's going to lose for this one. I think she's going to get caught a lot. I think Valenzuela can impose herself physically. If she can put it on to Romero and just keep coming forward, I think that could be too much. Even if she isn't really using that pick in her shot type style, it's just going to be interesting to see if she can tire or if she'll tire or not. But Romero with that open guard, if she gets caught with the overhands in which Valenzuela does throw, that could definitely cause damage. And like I say, if she can put on the pressure and let her hands go Valenzuela and maintain that, I think Romero's defensive wise, like I say, backing up in straight lines and things like that, she could definitely get caught with problems on that. And like I say, the physicality in which I don't think Romero likes, I think Valenzuela is going to be able to nick it and be able to win, and that's a huge win for her in her career. That'd be the biggest win by far of her career. And then who she could go on to fight would be really interesting then, to be honest. I think the super bantamweight division is doing quite well at the moment. Obviously, we have the likes of Romero, we have the likes of Scotney, we have the likes of Cruz, Motu, Mercado, Lefebvre. There is a good mix of names around, so I think, like I've just mentioned, a Cruz fight would be an excellent fight. I think matchup-wise and stylistic-wise, Gel was a very nice fight. I think Motu is warranted a world title fight sometime soon, so that could be an option. Or Lefebvre again is a fight in which I wouldn't mind. Obviously, she is coming off the loss versus Scotney, so she's going to want to come back but also still probably fight at a high level as well. So I think that could be a fight that could be easily made and might make sense as a rematch. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.